Hello, Christine.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Um, you asked me about on Twitter. We talked a bit about sabbaticals, or I think we had one or two interactions or something, and I was like, maybe I know something about this. And then I was too lazy to type, so I thought maybe we could talk about it on the podcast. And we agreed that you would maybe ask me some questions or something, and we can talk about sabbaticals. Good for you, good for me. Yes, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember
Uh,
I've been thinking about going on sabbatical, and I think I tweeted something like, "Hey, like one of the questions I had was about like dating and being on sabbatical. People were giving all these responses, um,
right.
and then you gave a response, and then I had like at least 3 or 4 follow-up questions. So we were like,
Right,
let's
right.
just do a podcast and talk about because I have questions about everything about a sabbatical, and it feels like
Yeah.
many people have gone on sabbaticals, but just talking to you would be really helpful, I think. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
lovely. And for me, it's a good time to do that as well. Kind of getting a bit more serious about coming out of the sabbatical.
Hmm.
So it's good for me to talk about what I know, because obviously I've been on a 5-year sabbatical, you could say. I mean, it gets longer and longer, and I hope it never ends, sort of. I mean,
Wow,
ideally, that's the
yeah.
whole point, right? Um, but you gotta get, well, you gotta, I don't know, I gotta, at this point, get back to work a little bit. And of course, you don't go on a 5-year sabbatical without it leaving a mark also in your work, right? I mean, this is, I already thought pretty extensively about starting like specific consultations, like maybe the one we might just have on this on air. I already do some
Mhm.
coaching. This is definitely something I would like to offer. Maybe before we talk about this, maybe we introduce you a bit for the proper order of podcast things, because
Sure.
I actually first time we're talking really, and of course I followed you for a very long time. Apparently we have some mutual friends,
Mhm.
and I'm a great admirer of your um, I don't know, I would let me call it maybe like building with abandon, because as far as I understand, you have a Twitter dating app now known as cuties.app, which is brilliant, of course. Many compliments. I do love a good name, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and are you producing a cuties hat by any chance? You're not. Okay.
I
Thought you were
am.
about to.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you asked. I have like a whole box full over here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
show. Nice. Yeah, you gotta rep that. I love these. I just looked at them. So good. I just ate some strawberries too, so it's perfect.
I'm bringing them to Vibe Camp, and I now have a open shop link. So if you order it online, you can just buy it. So
That's great.
I sort of feel very tempted to like give them away to my friends. But I'm also trying to like do monetization, so I probably shouldn't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. You should give a few away to like your influencer friends, you know,
I
the
should
you know,
I should
vibe influencers, you know, kind of.
I should send
Yeah.
some to you and our friends in Berlin so you can get the
Yeah.
Berlin scene going.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, that would be so
Yeah.
good. Okay, so you also built Third Space, right? The kind of like
Yeah.
in the
I built it's like a creativity based social media platform. Um I built it because I thought Twitter was going down
yeah,
actually no, last October,
yeah.
and Elon took over, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to lose all my friends that I've made on the internet." So I made a Twitter alternative, but then it actually evolved into something that I wanted to use, which is more like a project management platform for my creative projects. So I still use it
Yeah.
to track like 100 meta meditations, like 100 physical therapy exercises. I use it to track every single creative project I have, and I have like so many, including the dating app. So that was thriving for a while until I stopped hosting on it, and then it kind of it has dropped off. So
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
What did
Yeah.
you said you stopped hosting? What did you stop hosting or posting, you mean?
No,
You stopped
hosting.
hosting.
I was hosting like weekly Wednesday jam sessions. And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes I would host these Sunday sessions. I had like a whole slew of events that I was hosting. So every Wednesday we'll get together. We'll be like, I want to work on this project. Then we'll spend like 90 minutes working on it. Then we'll come back and be like, here's what I worked on. It was like co-working.
That's dope.
And then we also did these sessions on Sundays where it was like figuring your shit out. So like one person would go up and like monologue about some knot in their life, and then people would like ask them questions or put questions in the chat, like resources, links to like unblock them. Um yeah, those were the types of things we did. Um
That's
yeah.
great. That's great. As a side note, do you know that our mutual friend Maybe and I and also Lily, we invented the term co-worming. Do you know? Have you heard
No.
about co-worming?
No. What is it?
It's well, it's sort of it started here in my studio slash living room, and it's sort of like you. First of all, it comes up by misspelling co-working in the chat in on Telegram
Mhm.
or whatever, and
Yeah.
then it's like, well, actually, because in the sabbatical unemployment space, you don't
Yeah.
always have work, but then you're an adult and you're like play date isn't really quite the word anymore or something, but that's really what you want, right? You want kitty stuff, and then you just do some co-worming, you just lie on the ground a bit, just do some wiggling, co-worming, cozy things. Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. And so you have this trifecta, right? And you also have Twitter job board, is that right?
Mhm.
So you have
Yeah.
you have Twitter job board, third space, and Twitter dating app, aka
Yeah.
Cuties now. And
Yes.
you just build that like that? Is that just what you do? You just build an app and then
Um
it's quite good, looks quite nice, people fall in love. Is that what you do? People make money. Is it just what you do, Christine, or how does it work?
no, so I of course I mean the whole thing that powers all the apps that I do is this platform that allows me to build them really fast.
Oh yeah.
Um yeah, so the dating app I built in like 2 days. Which if I were a programmer, like even a decent programmer, it would probably take me a lot longer.
Okay.
So I am using this like platform basically. And that's
Hmm.
actually a part of how I'm trying to think about like um moving forward is maybe I can make more of these web apps for niche communities. And like for example, this Twitter scene we're a part of, I consider like a niche community.
Yeah.
And people are trying to date not just anyone on Hinge, but like someone who has the very specific shared context that they do, the like memeplex or whatever. Like they know the right references and they can find them in this little corner. And I think like Bubble, the platform really allows you to do a lot of like um yeah, it just allows you to make a lot of software for your specific community. Um so that's how I have been like getting into it.
Thank you for introducing your work. Also, I haven't heard you talk about it much. You're just doing it, and I just wanna, I don't know. Yeah, it's a big compliment from me to
Mm.
you. I think I'm very impressed with that, and also just your general levity with like new cuties. Is iconic. That's already so great. And maybe for the interested listener, do you have any data on like how many
How's it going?
matches or successful matches you've made, or how many people are getting jobs via Twitter job board or something? Not to put you on the spot, just yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's start with I would say Twitter job board is my least successful app. Going forward with like sabbaticals and stuff, I'm thinking about nixing the ones that aren't working that well, mostly Twitter job board. People have been getting a lot of like clients through Twitter job board. Not jobs, but like people will post like their consulting services. Like I definitely know of a few people who have gotten like coach, like at least leads, lots of leads on like coaching or whatever. At
Mm,
least when I was posting about it like months ago. But it's sort of died down. Something I've learned about the apps is you need to have a trigger to encourage people to go back and like have this loop, this engagement loop. And the job
right.
board, there aren't enough hirers posting jobs. I think there's not enough of like a thriving ecosystem there. So I would consider that like, I mean, people have had some success, but I don't really have any numbers on that. And then for third space, I think it's less like trackable in terms of metrics, but there was a thriving community. People have written like many essays on there. It's beautiful to like look at. And for a while we had this little community, and while I'm not hosting, it was too much effort. People made friendships. Like I've heard people be like, "Oh, a bunch of my friends nowadays are like the ones from Third Space," and
Wow,
I
that's
love
great.
that. I'm thinking about making again, like I might not continue all the platforms because they get expensive. But like I might make like a end of Third Space yearbook, you know, like like a book that just memorizes all the essays and like good stuff that went on there. And then for the dating app, which is my most successful, I think it's most successful because people have this natural urge to like date. They're like, I want a romantic partner. Yeah. So they go on there. I think there's about 800 users, and I think there's like 450 active users. Um, and it's most active in New York City because it's such a walkable, thriving area. And then SF, then LA. LA has a little bit of a burst because I'm here, so I like host things, you know. But in terms of stats, I mean, 2 relationships, which I'm like so hyped about.
How could you not? That's so great.
And then
Yeah.
like lots and lots of hookups. I mostly hear about dates and hookups. And a
Also
lot
not bad.
lots of people getting laid maybe. um, or like
That's
they like
always good.
go through a city and they're like, who should I talk to? And they look at the dating app because Twitter, there's so much like anonymity. I pronounce the word. But like their avatar might be like a cartoon or something. But with the dating app, it's like, oh, here's their face, here's like some things you can know about them, and it helps to just build trust and then be like, hey, do you want to hang out? So yeah.
Great. That's great. Oh, I mean, that's really great. That's, you know, these are just invaluable metrics, you know. Even if you just start by people got to know each other, it's like, hey man, come on, that's great. And then I
People
think
come up to me. I was in the cafe in New York because I was staying at Fractal, and there's like this cafe next to it. And people would just walk and be like, "Oh my God, Christine, I met my friend through your app." Or like, I made like, you know, I've met all these people, and like these friends introduced me to a whole new community, like a whole new scene. And I'm like, that's amazing. And that's exactly what I want to happen. I just wanted everyone to like like the community ties to get stronger, you know. So
of course, yeah,
yeah.
that's what we like to do. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of hosting here in Berlin.
Yes.
I've been learning that I'm quite comfortable doing that. I'm gonna host 3 week
Hmm.
the Berlin Vibe Camp offshoot or whatever we want to call it. I think that's a fair enough way of describing it. Because I was like, oh, nobody's doing something in Berlin, and then it's like probably should be me. So that's happening,
I'm really
and
excited for that.
it's great. Oh, you're gonna come probably, right?
Probably. I
Yeah,
haven't
that's good.
heard. I don't know. You tweeted it one time and I submitted a form, but I don't know what's next.
There's nothing next yet. That's you gotta wait. I mean, I
Okay.
gotta secure a location, and
Okay.
I talked to maybe today about how we should do, how we want to, you know,
Yeah.
maybe coalesce, curate a little bit, which intention we want to put into it, and
Mhm.
we it was a very successful. I'm just coming from this, so I'm like top of
Okay,
my
cool.
mind,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's the next thing that's going to happen is location found, tickets open, pretty much. That's
Cool.
find the location, do some math, and
Yeah.
then set ticket prices and let it rip.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling the urgency for it because it's in 4 months precisely, because the 23rd of May today. It's going to start at the 23rd of September, so it's not so much time. Time goes
Yeah.
fast. So,
I mean,
but
honestly, we can do like a follow-up podcast after this where I'm like, how was the planning and the organizing and like,
we can
um,
do, yeah. I think we can do all sorts of things. I'm very down for yeah. I want to do this more anyway. So yeah, I mean, for me, that's good. I think it's very nice to hear you talk, because I never heard you talk anywhere about your projects a bit, and it's dope insight. And I hope many more friends and relationships. And from my end, you could take it away and tell me about your sabbatical plans. Okay, let me intro you to it. I have an idea, because when you described your cycle between your work and your projects,
uh-huh.
um, and as far as I can tell, even a passion project can be draining or whatever. And you said they probably cost you money and whatnot. So you have to, as far as you want to fill me or us in on this, but it sounded to me initially when you say, okay, I work at this platform, I build with this platform for my
Mhm.
community, and it felt like a nice potential cycle there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it doesn't feel like, well, I know nothing about you, so you can tell me that, but that's like, well, that's a pretty good arrangement. Seems like you have and okay, but you also are curious about not working, I presume, which I haven't been an expert in. I have not worked a lot as an adult. So let me know where you're coming from, and what
Yeah.
drives you and what you want to do.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. I do have a good reinforcing cycle set up. When I left my last job and was looking for a new job, I mean, actually, my last job also, this was a case. And once I found it, I was like, this is what I want to do. So it was really important for me to work for a product for which I am the end user. So I am already working for myself in some way. Like if I don't use the product, I don't want to design it because there's not enough of like a feedback loop where
Mhm.
I care.
Mm.
So because I use the product, or once I heard about the platform, I knew I would use the product. That was what got me to even join. Um, you're right that I have a great job, great setup, really love it, really lucky, very blessed and privileged, and like I'm very aware that I'm in a good position. And yet,
And that's fine. Yeah. And yet, yes.
I'm not running away from it. I am feeling pulled towards something else. Like I don't feel totally fulfilled. And it yeah, I don't know, like I think work is like yes, I could have work at a company that feeds into my creative projects, that feeds back into the work I'm doing at this company, but I could also have the same cycle where I have some kind of work that I'm doing for money. It doesn't have to be at a company that feeds into my creative projects, that feeds back into my work. And that work that I do for money could be even closer to who I want to be in the life I kind of like the type of life I want to lead. The work that I'm doing right now is a little tiring because it's like just fast paced. It's on East Coast hours. I just feel like a big drain physically. And that's part of why I'm like feeling less into it. Also, it's just people on Twitter are working for themselves. Like, I feel like all of my friends have their own thing. They're like on sabbatical, or they are doing their own service. They're doing their own, like, they have created something out of themselves that they then give to the world and get paid for. And that feels so cool. And I think for me, I'm going to try this period where I make something for myself and try to make it sustainable. If it fails, I'll call it a sabbatical and go back to work, basically. But if it works, then maybe I'll have my own thing going, like it's like an independent consulting or something, you know.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of the thinking there. I haven't thought through all, like, it's ambiguous. That's why I'm really excited to talk to you about it, because it sounds like you've
Yep.
been doing this. I'm kind of curious, like 5 years ago, you haven't been on sabbatical yet. I assume you were working at some kind of normal job. Like, what was your mindset? Like, what were you thinking about? What made you be like, I want to do this?
Right. Yes. Very similar to you. I had a great job. I worked at Twitch, which
Oh, oh
was
my God,
my
yeah.
absolute dream job. I don't know if you know any people who work at Twitch, or if you like, I mean,
I did some
maybe.
work for Twitch, actually.
Huh?
I did a little bit of work for Twitch, Twitch Prime, when I was very at the beginning of my design career. Yeah.
And were you a freelancer then, or what?
I
Or
was a student. I did like some student work. So
okay,
yeah.
what did you design for Twitch Prime, if I may ask?
It was like their they had like a loot drop website, and
Yeah,
I like designed it. Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. Okay, hilarious. Um, yeah. So yeah. So I mean, my backstory is that I'm a big gamer, and that's something did my yeah. I mean, defined my life, to say the least.
Mhm.
And then I got into more active parts of gaming, and about that whole process of growing up as a gamer. I'm kind of have on the back burner a documentary called Purpose of Gaming, because I think gaming and playing, even more basically, is like a huge thing. Super important, the most important thing. And yeah, I really had a phase of maturation through gaming, which in the end led me to I was a gamer. Then I was sort of made friends through gaming online. Then I ended up being an active community participant in the StarCraft 2 scene, and
Mm.
then I ended up through that knowing people, ending up at Twitch, which I mean at 22, which was like whole, and then we got acquired a couple months later. And so I got like an Amazon, because Amazon of course acquired Twitch, and then I got a pretty good like acquisition higher stock package, and I was a fucking intern. I was like,
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
I got Amazon stock at like when it was worth $300. Just saying. So
Wow.
just to state sort
Mhm.
of my privilege in that, not that we have to, but I think it's fair for the context.
Mhm.
I saved a good chunk of money over my 4.5 years at Twitch, but I also had like a pretty fat amount of RSUs, basically, and
Yeah.
enough of them had vested. Not all of them, but that's how they get ya, right? And so that's
Mhm.
what we're talking about. How to
Yeah.
have a fat RSU package that's gonna invest, but how to quit anyways. That was, um, and yes. So yeah, it was. Okay, so that's the broader context where I was. I
Yeah.
was in the dream, but then 2 years in 2016, I started Twitch in 2014. 2016, I
Uh-huh.
was already like, "Is this it, bro? Like, do you want to be in London? Do you want to sit in an office? Is this you,
Yeah.
Simon? Is this
Yeah.
who you are? Is this gonna be you?" And I also had a
My
great job
question
making,
is this who you
huh?
are? The question of, is this you? Like, is this who
Yeah.
you are? Yeah.
And then yeah, I had a dope job too. Like I wasn't. did a lot of traveling to Germany. My job was like making friends. I was like partnerships, right?
Mhm.
Lots of status. I was interviewed in the newspaper. I was like, for me, for a moment, I was like making good cash, being the man. It was really great, really great. With gaming, and I was like, mother, do you see now? So got my, got my payback, my pay and my payback. That kind of. Yeah, so it's really all really good and breezy. But some things are strange. I'm in London. I'm in an office. I'm there every day. Nobody around me. Like, we've got a good crew because it was like the German guy, the French guy, the Turkish girl. We had like all the different European regions represented in employees. But we were friends. But there was not that much love. Everybody was there for a job, and
Mm.
that was a big question for me. Where's the love here? Like, I'm spending hours upon hours in here and then on that, and then I'm traveling, but I'm really like, it just had taken over my identity. I mean, I was wearing that purple hoodie with pride, but then later I was like, it's a bit tight in here. Like, what the hell? I'm not
Yeah.
currently building more muscle, so what is it? you know oh man. So to get to a point, 2 years in, I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and it's a very journey
Yes.
man-y book, right?
Mhm.
And then I was like, I had a shock. I was like, maybe I need to leave and do something else. And that book kicked in my door. Didn't knock, didn't open it, didn't ring the bell or nothing. Kicked it in. I was like,
Mm.
I had a shock. I was ill for 2 days after that. I was like,
Wow.
reality distortion field. I was like, no, wait. So the call was just raging in my ears too. And then I took the next 2 years, 2.5 years, to make that decision slowly.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
While my RSUs vested. Oops. I mean, that was practical. That was interwoven.
Yes. That's actually a whole thing. Like timing it correctly. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then lastly, to give you the insight on how I actually did it, it was pretty clear to me. Well, let me order my thoughts here. It was, first off, I gave Twitch a lot of extra chances. Like, because obviously I'm thinking I'm a bit crazy, right? Like, what, how can I want this? Like, who am I to want this? I don't know, this not working or.
Mhm.
So I thought, I started talking about maybe I should leave. And I was very good at my job, and I was very entrenched in the community. And like, I was not somebody you want to have leave as a company.
Yeah.
And I was also on the verge of building a team and getting a lot of new resources and serious international expansion, blah, blah. So I was really in front of like a curve, the hockey
Yeah.
stick kind of. But until then, I was alone a lot. So I had this built up frustration of not actually getting that kind of support. But anyway, so I was like, maybe I will quit. And then it was very funny to see the reactions to that. Took me ages to build up to saying that, but I was like, you know what? And I was
You
like, what
said
do you
it to
want?
your
What do you?
coworkers? You said it to your
I,
company?
I was. I said it to my boss in the decisive moment. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I loved my boss. Really, he was a big brother to me, and I cared
Mhm.
about him. And it didn't feel appropriate to have a secret. I had the
Mm.
secret for a long time, and I was like, well, you need to know how I'm feeling, because otherwise, you're talking to somebody, but you don't know what drives him.
Mhm.
And that seemed fair to me. And what happened as a result was that I was. He was like, "Well, what do you need?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe I want to be in Berlin. I want to move to Berlin. I fell in love with Berlin a while ago."
Mm.
And he was like, "Yeah, that fits. We could do that." It wasn't very appeasing to my threat. Like, and I didn't threaten.
Mhm.
But it set some things in motion, that's for sure. It's things that I could
Mm.
have probably just asked for in a much straighter way, but it is what it is. And then I moved to Berlin and started here, and then I was in this flat that I still have, which is great. And it was so empty, and yeah, it was a whole new set of problems, right? Like, okay, this is like living not in a city because I have to, because here is where I want to be, and there was like this emptiness but potential for life, you know, a
Yeah.
tiny child of a flat, and I don't know who I am as a person who lives in a flat, and you know, it's a whole thing.
Wait, so
And
your work moved you to Berlin? Is that right?
yes, which was also financially quite practical.
Yes.
And then in Berlin, I'm there half a year, and then I realize it's not the place. It's also the job. I just gotta go. And then and then I hired a team under me, and then I left, and they hired a new boss. And that team stayed for a long time. I did a very clean exit, a very like
Yeah.
tied up the strings, you know. So that is the not so short story of some of the twists and turns of the road going into the sabbatical. And I was very much about, I was thinking I'm going to be self-employed, just like you just said. But because I had a big, and I did an odd job here and there, we can talk about that more if you want. But the main thing that happened, spoiler alert, is that it was really a sabbatical. It wasn't for a long time. It was not time for me to work, and I had the money to chill, and I chilled in a way, and I worked in other ways. But yeah, we can talk about all of that in any way you want. But that's me in November 2018 to
Wow.
December 2018, going on a sabbatical.
Wait, how long was this about? What was the original to 28? What did ATS said? He said from
I said on the 30th of November 2018, I had my last day at Twitch in Berlin,
yeah.
and on the first day of December 2018, I had my
Oh, I
first day
see.
of
You
sabbatical,
started.
and I had no exit point except
Yeah.
for the inevitable money running out, which is
Wow.
more like now. But yeah, so I really stretched it.
5 years is a great amount. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you thinking about money, were you like, I will go until I have a certain amount of money left, like savings? Like you're not willing to go beyond a certain amount of like, you know, I want to have 3 months left or something, and then I'll stop, or
Well, I wish I could give you a smart answer to this, but no, the answer is no.
oh, you have to.
I tried to like put the money away, but it just went on, you know. There was a lot of abandon in there, and I'm in a place right now where my money is considerably tight, and I intend to like hold my current lifestyle, I think you say, or like monthly spend basically, which is not rising, but so it's constant. But it's not super little because Berlin is not so cheap. And no, I did not. So now this is a huge like money shadow exercise as well in a way.
Yeah.
But so no, I did not.
Gotcha. Yeah. Huh.
So
I
try
kind
at
of
your own risk. Like, I'm not saying this is a great idea, obviously, right? Nothing I
Yeah.
say, nothing I did is necessarily a great idea. 2 degrees, yes, but I think I did
No,
it pretty
it's I
hardcore as well.
mean,
Yeah.
it's really helpful because also there are some things that I'm like, I need to have it all planned out, you know, but you actually might not have to have everything planned out. Like things can, you know, they can just happen and evolve, and you can roll with it, and learn as you go. So
I
yeah.
think so. You know, in The Alchemist, which was obviously a great catalyzer,
Mhm.
the book starts with the main character, the shepherd,
Mhm.
already having achieved emancipation from his parents because he decided to be a shepherd, not a tradesman, like his
Mhm.
family wanted in the city. And so he already got the, like, which in my case was a video game job or whatever, right? And he's successful.
Yeah.
And this is a slight spoiler for The Alchemist, but I don't
I've
think
already
it
read
would
it.
hurt you. Yeah, and I think for a listener, I think no
Oh,
worries
yeah.
about it either, because it's the premise basically.
I shouldn't.
He
Yeah.
gets called to a journey. He sells his sheep,
Mhm.
so he's like, but at least I got this bag of money. And then relatively early on in his journey, he loses the bag of money,
Mhm.
and then the journey begins.
That's so good. I'm curious if you had any pressure around like aging, or like it's like I want to do things with my life before I get older, or like want to have family and kids. Like did those thoughts come up for you?
Would you elaborate this a bit and tell me what maybe your thoughts are? Because I would assume you have them.
Yeah, I think like I was like, I'm gonna go on sabbatical. And my mom was like, you can't go on sabbatical because once you go on sabbatical, let's say I go for like a year, um, you're not gonna date while on sabbatical. Like, I guess her whole point was like that dating was hard on sabbatical, especially if you're traveling around. And like that there's just like a timing to think about. And if I wanted to have like kids or a family sooner than later, then like a sabbatical could stretch that timeline to later. Um,
Right.
was that something you had in mind at all, or like not really a major consideration?
Okay, so first of all, just so we are very clear, and I'm very sorry if I'm too blunt. This is me. I think there's definitely a gender difference here, right? Because
Yeah.
the fertility is a factor in this conversation, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Would you say, or am I getting this wrong?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I'm like 29, right? And
Yeah,
I think nowadays you can have a kid like at 40, but like still I want like a number of kids. And
sure.
so it's like at least 2 years per kid. And then you start kind of like backtracking and I'm like,
Yeah,
all right, like
yeah,
I probably want to date a guy at least like 2 years before getting married, and
yeah,
like
yeah,
all of these like numbers start coming back down and I'm
yeah.
like, okay, it's probably about a decade, 8 years or so. If
Mhm.
I take a sabbatical for like a year and then I start dating, and like let's say I don't find a guy for a while, like this is definitely like something
I
that
hear
I'm
you.
thinking about, yeah, with like a sabbatical. Yeah.
Okay, so let me answer your question, because, like,
Mhm.
I can tell you that I didn't have this concern much. A little bit. I used to think in my 20s a lot that I would. I'm 32 now, turning 33 at 3 weeks.
Mm.
That's why it's also called 33 week or
Oh,
whatever. 33 week,
nice.
33 week. What whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm 32 now. I went on sabbatical with 27, right?
Mhm.
Um, and well, I'm really sorry to say to your mom, if she listens to this, Mama Christine, you're wrong. I'm really sorry, because um, Christine needs to go on a sabbatical. Pause. It's the
Yes.
way to love, right?
Yes. Yeah.
A sabbatical, also in relation to you asking about planning it very
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
This is the box, right? But sabbatical is here. It's outside of the box. It's the whole point. It's to live outside of the box. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is why it's a very sort of subversive and crazy thing, which I would also really like, if anybody wants to hire me, if I may plug myself, is like, this is what people need to learn in general, that life happens outside of the box.
Mhm.
That's where life grows wildly and flowery, and that's what companies also need to learn to allow people to go, because it can like 10 or 100x creativity and love, and that's what people need. And because companies are lower tiered than people, companies need that too, right? Just as a side note.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fairly self-evident for me. And you know, and you kind of alternate as a society between some people can be outside of the box and some people are in the box holding it down, doing the numbers. That's fine.
Yeah.
And then you change, right? And everybody gets a bit, you know, that's, you know, it's like Montessori living or something. Shout outs to Bia. But you know, you have to go on sabbatical so you can fall in love.
Yeah.
Right? Are you kidding me? Where are you dating at your workplace? Are you dating on your own? Like, where are you dating? You're dating on the journey to your heart. Where else will you date? And that's what a good sabbatical is. That's why I also wanted to mess with your premise a bit of I'll go on a sabbatical to become self-employed. I'm like, I mean, yeah, as a hang up to the bit, as a premise, sure, but like you want to go on sabbatical, to do nothing, to walk the walk of life, to experience life in purity. And I think that was my response that kind of triggered this podcast, is because now at the part where I already can feel my money going, so my sabbatical going, last August I met the love of my life, and I'm very grateful that we met. We met then, because well, I wrote a little poem, I think, as a reply to you. It was about, I don't know if you have it ready. I don't have it ready, but it's about.
I can pull it up, maybe.
Yeah, if you have it, I don't know how to find it, but it's about sort of purifying myself, opening myself up, being a purer version, like a non-bogged down version of me. And that's who I want. That's who I want to be when I fall in love. That's who I want to be for somebody to fall in love with me, you know? Because it's free from a bunch of stuff.
I have your response, and yet I don't have the poem pulled up. So we'll have to maybe show it after.
Yeah.
But yeah. I was actually really curious about this. So you went on sabbatical to go on sabbatical, and you didn't have plans around like, this is all the projects I want to do, or these are like, this is the work I want to do, or
No, because I didn't have this available. That's why I was so curious about your situation, because you're obviously a very creative person and you're also quite agentic. As your sort of side projects speak for themselves in that. And I wasn't. And I felt like my time was very taken up by my job and my time and my identity. These humongous old factors, right? And I couldn't even be creative because I didn't know how. And sabbatical for me was also a quest to creativity. And I found out that creativity and love and God or something are like in one line, you know, that in truth and true living, that's like all sort of the same thing if you look for it right, I think. And in like year 3 of my sabbatical, I started forming extremely I felt true creativity for the first time in conjunction with creative partners, friends that I started working on, like this movie that I mentioned with, or studying the I Ching, which I no, but I have it on the I have it as a project, the Purpose of Gaming thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't made it.
I'm a big fan of making films, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're much more of a maker than I am. I think it's very
Mm,
native to you to make. I'm not so much, but I'm a peopler. I like to connect people
mhm,
to me directly and
mhm.
make friends and find partners and
Yeah,
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 that's what I like.
and
Yeah,
host. It sounds like you
yeah,
host a lot. Yeah.
yeah. And all these are
Um,
true qualities of mine that is where my creativity is. It has a lot to do with people, but I need to find that out. I needed to. Now I can see that I was already doing that back at Twitch,
mhm.
but I can see it in its pure form, right? I can see it without sort of skin or overlay or like it's not
Yeah.
in any shape. It's just from my pure heart, it emerged.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's what I was looking for. This undisturbedness.
Hmm. So, okay, 5 year sabbatical. Walk me through it. Like, at first you were like enjoying yourself. Like, at some point you were telling me like you became more you, which is like very much what I'm looking for. Like, I can feel it calling to me, and I'm like, yes, like I want to. I don't know. I definitely don't have 5 years of money like saved up, but
Yeah,
I
I
think I
didn't
can
think
cut
so
down.
either, to be honest. Uh,
I'll probably cut down a big like I won't, I'm gonna change my grocery shopping, I'm gonna change my clothing shopping, I'm gonna change everything and just like minimize expenses. And like how did you, or like not even how, but like what was it like to slowly figure out what like this find this more pure form of yourself?
mm, right. I think that's a very large question, but let me see
Or like
what I
maybe
can
like
find.
if you walk me through your sabbatical, what was it like? Like first year you were like maybe did you travel a lot? Did you um
Right.
just allow yourself to release like pressure? Like what was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something, let me preface it with this. It's something I haven't documented very well.
Mhm.
So, which I kind of like, because
Yeah.
I otherwise, maybe the essence of it would be banished
Mhm.
on the page.
Yeah.
Um, so now you're asking me, so you're gonna get a true convoluted answer probably.
Cool.
Um, and if I would walk you through the whole thing, we'll be here tomorrow. Well, in my case, I mean, you have more
Mhm.
hours in this day because you're not in Europe. But so I will give you a try and interrupt me because so let me see. So it started in December 2018.
Mhm.
Uh, on one of the memorable, I'll just tell you some stories that I
Yeah.
remember.
Perfect.
One of the, so at first I was like, okay, great. I'm like, okay, I'm backpacks off, right? I'm
Yeah.
free. I'm light. Great.
Yeah.
First thought. I already mentioned this flat as sort of an artifact of my sabbatical,
Mhm.
which might has many things that I will talk about can happen just as well when you have a job or whatever. I think the sabbatical helped me feel everything again very purely because there wasn't
Mhm.
a okay, it's very nice that this and that happened, but now I got to go back to work. You don't have that. So you're
Mhm.
you're left with the things that happen. You don't
Yes.
have this job base, and I think that's like that's a big thing that we talk about. That it's like this job sedative in the world. You go back, whatever, something crazy happens, but okay, I got to go back to work, right? So the people are addicted to work also because it's a sedative.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
maybe this is a linguistic coincidence, but I'm just coming up with the fact that it's also sedentary. So I don't
Yeah.
know if it's sedative and sedentary are the same thing, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, anyway, I I had this flat and it was grossly empty. even before I was on sabbatical, right? Because I moved to Berlin in April 2018, and then in November I left the job, and it was just in October I got a kitchen. You know, not because apartments in Germany often come without a kitchen. Little funny thing. So I had to buy my own kitchen, but okay, I
Yeah.
had the money. But you know, like appliances, everything was bare, right? Empty.
Wow.
I had some makeshift solutions, but you know. And then made me think a lot. Like, okay, so this is really what this is what my life is like, right? It's devoid of. I mean, it's rich in sort of spirit, but there are no possessions. You know, there's no nothing that no affordance. I think something you can handle, something you can interact with. So an overarching theme through the sabbatical was the development of this flat, you know, and it developed, you know, I like kind of, but I didn't know how to do that in the beginning. So that was a big thing. And my goal was also, I feel like I need to preface a lot. I have some stories, but I promise, but my goal was not to travel. So I didn't travel much. My goal was to take root, actually, because I found out at some point because I was traveling, but my real archetype is a tree. And I've been uprooted all my life. Right. And, you know, I moved for the first time when I moved a bunch around as a kid because my mom and my dad didn't have were very young. So that's one factor, but also not such a functioning relationship. So flat here, flat there, separation, living with grandma and grandpa, flat here, etc., etc. Then moving to a whole different part of Germany. And so that was my goal, was like, I need to chill the fuck out. I need to take some roots. I'm looking for home. Big factor in my sabbatical. Looking for home. Okay, so I'm in this home, as I told you, the development of which is pretty much the, what would you say, metric or indicator of my wholeness, or something you could say. Okay, so that would be a bit of a thing.
Did you
Yes.
know you
Should I go on?
were
Oh, yeah.
Did you know you were like this tree archetype before? Like, did that come to you over time, or um
That came to me very specifically when I did acid with a friend in May 2020.
nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. That was a very that changed my life.
Yeah.
It was my second acid trip, and was a pretty strong one. And it hit me like a truck. Because always when I was tripping before, the trees always spoke to me very much, and my friends could also always see it. And maybe because we used to do more mushroomy things. Truffles are legal in the Netherlands, so, and I lived there for a while, so we did that a bit. But no, this slowness also. Why was my sabbatical so long? Because I think I'm a very slow guy in a way. Like my development, I think development is slow. I think the tree archetype can kind of apply to everyone, but I feel like very at home with this.
Yeah.
Very slow, very sturdy, very like collecting energy, right? Like I always imagine this thing that I do with hosting and stuff, like tree week.
Yeah.
Big thing about it is like bring the people together under the tree, playing under the canopy. It's like really my life's vision, you know.
Wow. Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, what is my archetype? And it might be more bird-like, is what
Yeah,
comes to me. Um, I mean, there's sort of like a theme of like flying with my whole family. Like, I think my parents like
yeah,
flew around, and like I am sort of wanting to travel around, and like I am fairly I have a major collector's like impulse too, but it feels similar to like collecting a lot of interesting things, like similar to how a bird might into like a nest. But I love the idea of like knowing yourself and like knowing there's like archetypes that like feel really meaningful to you to help anchor like, oh, this is like who I am. This is the kind of like life that I want. These are the activities like that work for me.
Yeah.
That sounds wow.
Somehow, am I wrong, or are you also quite aquatic?
Aquatic. I'm also very watery. Yes.
Okay. Your Twitter account is very aquatic, in my opinion. Only knowing you from there, but
That's so
it's
funny.
yeah.
I also have a
Yeah.
lot of fire.
Seem like are you the Avatar, Miss? Ma'am?
I haven't watched. I need to watch. I'm sorry.
Highly recommend it. Great if you're going on a spiritual or a
Maybe I
spirited
should
journey, at
watch
least.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Take note, lady. It's a good watch. I know, I see it.
I am strongly watery. Yes, aquatic.
Yeah.
That is. I often feel like my bedroom is like underwater, and that's part of like
What
my natural.
What if you're a pelican? Is it
A
called?
pelican.
Is that a bird?
Oh,
Can you call that?
that is a bird. Yes, like an aquatic
Big
kind of.
big beak,
Yeah, carrying.
so it can collect things. Yeah. Just
Oh,
guessing.
yeah. Were there? So you talk about like The Alchemist a lot. Um, and kind of like it sounds like it really struck you, right? And then like Avatar. Are there other like books or readings or materials while you're on sabbatical that you might like recommend?
Yes. Which I'm very conscious of not really having started the timeline of my sabbatical story part, because yeah, I don't want to like edge this, so I can connect this, because one thing that was extremely meaningful for me was The Artist's Way, because
Yes.
yeah,
I haven't read it.
there's a yeah. So there's a golden rule on Teapot, I think, that whenever somebody mentions The Artist's Way, somewhere in Teapot, somebody starts reading The Artist's Way group chat. And then I don't know if
Yeah.
any of them ever made it through like to chapter 12 or something. I certainly didn't. But like The Artist's Way is like by far, well, maybe tied with The Alchemist, the most psychedelic book of all time. Because you start reading it, and first of all, basically, she explains you that God is real, and that's what I said. Like in creativity, in yourself, that and for me, that was a huge thing. Belief system development. It's like, we haven't talked about this much, but the kind of, oh God, I need to write about this. I have too many topics in my head. You know what your mom said? Like kind of, yeah, you can't do
Yeah.
that. Da, da. I'm lucky because my mom is like, go. You should. She's always like this. Always been like, you can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. Just take good care of yourself. Oh, you gotta quit your job. Great idea. Go. Abandon. I mean, she. It's something I really appreciate about her.
I love that.
It's great. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not, let's say, the most planned out person, so it also has its drawbacks. But let's talk about the strengths. It's really something. And it was like go. But I also took the 2 years of deliberation was a lot about, can I do this? Am I fucking stupid? Am I reckless? Am I unfair with this dope ass job that nobody else has? Can I just, so I thought about this stuff a lot. And what replaced all of these doubts over time for me was faith. So the faith in initially well, you want it, so you kind of gotta. Like, it's not like you have much of a choice, really. Like, what do you want to do? Stay? Like, the impossibility of that was pretty obvious. You're saying this too, right? It calls you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then that ties back in with The Artist's Way, because The Artist's Way first starts with you want to be an artist. And it's all about people essentially not being a lawyer and being a painter instead, roughly speaking, right?
Mhm.
That's what she talks about. I have clients, they are this, but they really want to be that.
Mhm.
And it's like there's a sort of a bit in there which is like they're a fish, but they really want to be, they are really a bird, you know, but they're whatever, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the first story that happened when I went on, so I highly recommend The Artist's Way. Um,
Mhm.
because it's like also a school book, kind of a program, and she talks to you very nicely. And before you know
Yeah.
it, your brain is fried, and you put it away because you can't handle it. In chapter 1, chapter 2, you're like, oops, I forgot reading it. It's like, yeah. And now you wait for 2-3 months, and then you see where your head goes, like where your belief system, how that changes. You know, it's transformative.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
And so the first thing that happened when uh, I was suddenly now on sabbatical in December 2018. And I was like, great, haha. And then, you know, I was not as well connected in Berlin, but I had one very good friend. We're not friends anymore, unfortunately, but he told me that he also needed to go on a journey. He needed to leave.
Mhm.
And he ended up going on a world, like world travel kind of thing,
Mhm. Mhm.
like all sorts of places.
Mhm.
And he told me that one night, and I also watched episode of, I think, Chef's Table then with the South American Patagonian chef, which is such a beautiful episode.
Mhm.
I forget his name. And he just likes to, it's just beautiful nature and freedom that evokes from this episode. And
Mhm.
with my friend leaving, I felt very sad and wistful because he was like one of my only friends here in Berlin. I moved into this area because it made a huge impact on me that he lived here as well, and I wanted to be close.
Were you
And
on
he was like,
Twitter?
No, that's late 2020. I find
No.
Twitter after a harsh breakup. Yeah, that is also a huge episode. But yeah, basically, I'm in bed. I'm feeling a bit wistful. This is the 11th of December,
Mhm.
2018,
Mhm.
and you know, I was like, what's up with me? You know, I'm feeling really emotional. And
Mhm.
nowadays, I would be like, yeah, no shit, kiddo. You know, you just threw your life upside down. That's what do you think's gonna happen? But at the time, I was like, man, that's really unusual. You're in it. You're not.
Yeah.
You're off it, right? What are you gonna? And so I decided to pray. I was like, I feel like I'm feeling very lost or something, and I'm like kind of baseline a man of faith, and I was, yeah.
Mhm.
Now it's very strong in me, and back then it was like, well, how about we say hello to the man upstairs? And I hadn't prayed in years, though, right? Not like that, not practicing, but
Mhm.
just as a
Mhm.
baseline. Yeah, of course, you know. Um, and so I prayed, and I asked for guidance. I said, you know, please show me the way, because I'm feeling like one of my anchors here is leaving, and um, show me a way, show me somewhere to go. What should I do? Because
Mhm.
we're used to doing things all the time. So you
Mhm.
ask for what to do. And I end up falling asleep, and I am almost having like a fever dream, or sort of a very like good and evil vision. It's very strange, very intense.
Mhm.
I usually have this at the beginning of a psychedelic episode, like with substance involved. I usually get like presented the path of darkness and the path of light, and I always choose the path of light because, so like, I don't want to have a bad trip or something. You know, it always feels pretty more fun to go there. But there, I always have intimations of like kind of skulls and visages, you know, and like strange
Mhm.
faces, grimaces, and so I saw that, and I'm like, that's unusual. Why is that? Like, and I kind of drift off asleep, and the next day I wake up to a message, phone next to my bed, and it was my dad. Just one text, and it said, Grandpa Jürgen died tonight. And that was very strange to me. I didn't know this grandpa very well, but because my dad's side, and I only got contact at that time 5 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a strange occurrence that I asked for guidance, and well, I knew I had to pack my bags and go, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so God appeared strongly to me then, and I think that's a major factor that would also accompany me. This faith,
Mm-hmm.
like seeing it so clearly, having sort of a visit from God episode,
Mm-hmm.
and being without a doubt that there's magic, or
Yeah.
God, or love, or higher power.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
knew so I knew I have God with me, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that really helps
Yeah.
to do when you're doing something kind of stupid, you know. Then you're like, but maybe what if it's the right thing? What if the voice that tells me to quit my job is God, which it is, I think, which it is. If you have a calling, it's probably God on the phone, you know, being like, hey girl, like, how about you, you know, you got something in you know, maybe you let it out. That's what
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Something that sometimes I get confused by is I think there is something to like knowing that something feels like it's coming from God versus all the other small voices, because I have at least 8 or 9 small voices in my head.
At
You know?
least.
I have at least 12 all over my body. They tell me different things. They contradict each other. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I should stay here. And other one's like, no, you should go there. And so, like, this is partly why IFS, I don't know if you knew my account back when I was very IFS, like, branded, but that was what got me onto
Don't
Twitter.
think so.
I've had
Ah,
many eras, but IFS was like a major internal family systems was like the psychotherapeutic framework that talks about how the mind is multiple, or like the human is multiple. And it really
yeah.
resonated with me. And it was a huge part of my self cohesion and like achieving like inner harmony and inner peace. Like it was transformational for me. And I do think there's something about this idea of like self, there's like a self energy that underlies all the parts. And that is also what would, I think, feel like something that comes from God. At the same time, I'm like, well, how do you, like when you talked about all your doubts going into the sabbatical, I was like, wow, that felt like really affirming to hear because like that's everything I'm thinking about now. Like while you're on sabbatical and you have these, like, you talked about like the faith from God helping guide you. So while you're on sabbatical, would you have other moments of like, oh, I'm lost again, or like, what am I doing? And then, and you like look to God. Was that like the general feeling of that? Like,
Yes, in a way. It like, have you experienced having trouble with something and then gradually getting good at it? Maybe something like tidying up, or
yeah,
doing the kitchen, or like
hmm,
doing paperwork or something like that.
yeah,
You know, the feeling of you're young and it's like whatever and you're dreading it, but then you learn that you have to do it kind of, and then you just learn how and when and stuff, you do it, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
in my experience, that also increases frequency of it, right? Because you're not dreading it. So you're
Mhm.
just going there and it's a thing and you do it and you know, you shower, whatever. this is how I would describe my relationship to God, aka, God has many names for me.
Yeah.
It is about learning to listen to myself.
Yeah.
And I would say, to use this question again to advance the story a little bit,
Yeah.
I ended up getting into, of course, looking for love always, and ended up, getting into a relationship at some point in 2019. So the first full year of my sabbatical, and then I was that was really, I knew that was something that was important to me. I was thinking a lot about purpose at the time. I was always thinking it's a big purpose in my life to be a father. So here's your topic from earlier, except
Yes.
I don't have the time pressure, but a little bit. I mean, my family everybody had kids pretty young, so I was like, yeah, I could be a father any day now, pretty much. I always felt like that. And so we were in agreement on that. So we got together, and no, but we moved together, and then I moved out of here for a while, and things
You
ended
moved
up being
out of
pretty
your
bad.
flat.
Yeah, and I sublet it, luckily, to a very nice Korean family who were migrating from Korea to Berlin. Very nice people.
Yeah.
Dad, mom, and 3 daughters. Yeah. Very, very cute people. I used to teach them some German and stuff. It was very nice. And that relationship, ended very crashy and burny, very bad. And
How
while I
long
was
was it?
licking my wounds, it was let's say June, July. It was 1.5 years. 1.5 years. June, July 2019 till December 2020. And so that was, let's say, an episode in itself. Of course, many things happened. During that time, I was thinking a lot about work, but I was really, if you can look back now, I have a 5-year sabbatical. You're really going down into the valley, right? There's a hero's journey here, and you're going.
Yeah.
And depending on how long it's meant to be, which you don't know, and ideally you kind of don't control, maybe something we can talk about if you want, the control over it, the box that you put around it,
Yeah.
going freely. In my case, I was like, and I was thinking about coming back and founding a company and doing work, and I was like still halfway on the way down, because the ascent happened maybe 22, 23, now 24, but 2019, 20, 21, maybe with 21 was the middle point or something, right? But that I was in no way to like emerge truthfully, because all the people around me weren't the right people, and whatnot. And this relationship wasn't my person, and we weren't that good for each other. And of course, you learned a lot from the pain, but that's not what you always want to do. So I was licking my wounds afterwards, and then I found Teapot through like note-taking Notion. What is Notion? Like, what is Rome? Who is this Visa guy?
Oh,
And then
wow.
clicking through Visa threads, and I was like, holy shit, what is this dude doing with Twitter? That's crazy. It's like some spaceship thing, I'm like, whoa. Great entertainment for a Simon who was really fucked off by his ex, and like, what the fuck is going on, and deep in pain. And I was like, wow, these people think like me a little bit. Like, I thought I was the only philosopher that I knew, but there are other people who are like talking like me. They were like thinking like me. And to wrap this up, about the voice of God, after that relationship, I learned to stand up for myself a little bit more within regards to where I would just like iron over truths. Truth would like sprinkle out in front of me, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I guess I'll just forget about it. And then wake up with pain. I don't know why,
Oh my God.
and then I learned to read these crinkles. And then I realized that all these sorts of pain or emergent thing that, like something intrusive thought kind of yeah, that's truth talking to you. It's truth emerging from you, and that's like the PG-13 or like non-believer version, right? Okay, I feel truth in me, and somehow it wants out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you can just call that voice of God, but you don't have to. It's like I'm cool either way. Like if you know how to talk to yourself and you listen to yourself, then you're in communion with God, because yourself, your true self, your soul, if you will, there's no
Mhm.
difference from that to
Yeah.
God. That
Yeah.
is the same thing. That's how I see it. And so I learned to see through psychedelics. In my 20s, I learned to see meaning everywhere.
Mhm.
And then I would say, with this kind of more God and creativity meme, I learned to see truth everywhere. Like, what's true here and what's the right. And my pattern recognition is pretty good, so I could just see it. And then I could
Yeah.
learn to talk to it and also move with it and do what it tells me, kind of. And like recognize, oh,
Mm.
this is a good idea, this is not a good idea. Except when things that I had planned don't happen because they're not in the spirit of what is supposed to happen, and so on and so on.
Oh man, wait, I have two areas that I want to touch on now. I don't know which one. I'll give you the
Yeah,
option.
and I know I talk a lot. I mean, you're really giving me the. I haven't
This
talked
is
about this in a long
amazing.
time, so I'm very grateful. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this. I
Being like
love
a
this
water
story.
hose here. That's good. Thank you
Um,
for yeah.
okay, you get to
Mhm.
pick. One is
Thank you.
I'm curious. You said the people around you weren't the right people. The relationship wasn't the right person. I'm curious how much the people around you changed um over the course of the sabbatical. And then yeah, I think I have some kind of hang up around that where I like am extremely attached to people. I get very attached to like friends.
Mhm.
But yeah, just like did they change? Did you keep in touch? Did you totally change friend groups? Like what happened there? And then the other potential topic is the control, like the box, the planning. How much did you plan? How much did that go out the window? Like did you have to practice letting go of control? Was that like the faith in God that like led you? Because I have a plan going for my sabbatical. So um yeah, those are the two topics.
Okay. Choose your own adventure. Friends or control. So, because I think people is the most important thing, or are, but
Hmm.
people as one thing is a thing for me, you know? So,
Hmm.
maybe let's go with that,
Cool.
with the topic of the people. Um, you know, uh, speaking to you also personally, I kind of, maybe making stuff up about you, but as far as you seem to me, you're probably a lot maturer than, and like more settled in a way than I was when I went. So I was completely new in town and so on. And so I think also, looking at your work and stuff, I think a lot of things seem consistent in you. That means they won't change so much. Maybe that means, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, so that would be my answer to you directly. For
Okay.
me, it changed a lot because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't settled, and I was like, something completely new was starting, and
Mm-hmm.
actually, it happens in my life a lot that I do a very strong shedding.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be in the. I used to be, I was friends with about people in my childhood. Then I got when I was 9 or almost 10, we moved, shedding, right? So I make a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of new friends. But 10
Mm-hmm.
years later, when I'm off to university, I move, and then I kind of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
find my new place after a few tries, and boop,
Mm-hmm.
break up with my girlfriend because I'm starting a new life. Like there's something new. I don't know. I'm not gonna stay here. Like I don't know. It was very self-evident, back then.
Yeah.
and I was 18, so like, what gives, you know?
Yeah.
Or 20 maybe at that time. Move into London to start my job, you know. And from each area, I retain my best friends usually.
Okay.
So I have
Yeah.
like a strong back catalog of friends, and you know, my friend Zebby, who is probably going to edit this podcast episode for us, is one of my best friends, or my best friend from high school. And so I have like really, I love people, and I have like these really strong bonds. I'm friends. My best friend, or of all time, or like go-to first friend. I was 0 and he was 1 when we met. You know, it was like in German we say Busenfreund, which means like breast friend, implying that you're like suckled at the same teat, sort of. You know,
Gotcha.
and so we're friends, and we will always be friends, and it's like big lore for me. So I have steadiness, but here, of course, a lot changed. But I didn't have such. I feel like because I became much more myself, you know, pretty radically in a way. And a lot of people, in retrospect, didn't even treat me very well. But also because I couldn't say how I want to be treated, you know. It was a huge learning after this relationship broke off. So with that, a lot of things changed for me, because I started getting angry, and, you know, I started being disagreeable. I started like feeling the full range of my emotions. And I started.
How did you get angry or disagreeable? Like, did you practice?
This relationship was very good practice to get angry, that's for sure, and then to put it into a bit better practice. One of the big episodes of my sabbatical, I suppose, is I have 2 little brothers, and my middle bro. They're both like 10 years younger than me and from a different father. So my middle bro is 22 right now, and he moved to Berlin in 2020. Moved in with me and my ex for a little while, and then we he found a flat and like sort of started living life. But that all wasn't so good, and he was very young, and he didn't know how to live at all, and he wasn't doing so well. And so he ended up moving in with me for almost a year, I think, or even a year. No, a year and a bit. Yeah.
Wow.
So that, I think, was that.
So you got angry at him a lot? Was that part of it?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we are very different makeups, like Ayurvedically or something. My mom is like an Ayurveda expert, so it comes up. And he's like triple kapha, pure water, and I'm like fire and vata, air mostly, you know, and a little bit of kapha. I can chill, you know, but I'm like talking and moving, you know. I'm like, when I'm really in my I chill a lot, and then I'm like, and yeah, and well, and of course he's so young, we're so different. We had to do a lot of fighting to get on the same page. That's something I really believe in, you know, picking a fight early to get on the same page instead of letting things fester. And things used to fester in me a lot. So and then I got angry a lot, yeah, and I learned where the limits of that are. I hurt my brother, of course, but luckily we're families, so you know, things can be forgiven. And yeah, that was very well. And that was also, and you're really pulling it out of me now, that was a very important chapter of my sabbatical. Because it gave me it actually brought me back into the world a lot, because it changed my it changed me from a solitudal being, and I was looking for a lot of solitude in my sabbatical, to a familial being, to a always present. Somebody's always there, right?
Yeah.
And then, funnily enough, when my bro moved out, the next person who ended up always being at my house was Maybe, which was also great. Even in like in you know, and then even at times where, I don't know, she was kind of meh and I was not feeling great, we're just there, we're like, whatever, you know. but we're co-worming, and we're just kind of, it's better than being alone, it felt like. So allowing myself to be angry made me much more, or to get angry or to speak my truths. It's the same thing. Truth and anger are very close. Made it possible for me to be among people truly.
Interesting. So anger felt close to truth.
I think so. It's the same motion. It's an upwards. It's the emergence of truth also. I mean, I'm not saying this might not be super universal or something, but it feels like there's something there.
Was there a phrasing or like, was there a way that you like stepped into being like, hey, like, was there like a phrase or something that helped you be like, I'm angry? Like,
oh yeah, actually, yeah. The phrase is, that really pisses me off.
I love it. I'm in search of a good phrase because I've been trying to work with my anger a lot, but I like can't find the words. So it's like, yeah. And I feel like without the vocabulary, it's hard to not go straight into something that's like too far or like not what you mean it. It's like not high enough fidelity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
I see what you mean. It makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's like, oh man. Yeah, or I'm kind of pissed, you know? Like somebody's like something wrong, and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of pissed, you know? And then often, like, I get pissed at sometimes, like, probably like everybody, when people do something, you know? People do something around me, and I host people a lot, and people are at my house, and then, you know, I have my particularities, and I have right of house, sort of, and then I'm like, you stepped on my toes there, you know? I'm a bit pissed about that, or that kind of pissed me off. I'm kind of pissed, like, around that, and then it's like, yeah, luckily I have great people around me who are all very much welcoming this and giving me like, oh yeah, thanks for saying that, you know, like, because everybody understands that that's what helps us get along, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm not an evil person, you know, just
I love that. Thank you for giving me all those phrases. That's extremely helpful.
Great, I'm glad. Yeah, huge part of the psychological developmental aspect of the sabbatical and would also, by the way, for the moms, if any of them are listening, if I would ever want to get a job, now I'm not sure, like, I wanted to say, well, it would help me be much more at ease, because I swallowed a lot of stuff during my work. And I didn't argue enough, and I also didn't have such a strong opinion, but actually maybe that's not true, because I always seem to have pretty strong opinions. And then now I would feel with that ability available of saying casually, like, hey, you know, what is that you're doing that seems suspect to me, or, you know, I don't feel particularly good when that happens, so can we talk about this? Which is also like a predecessor to anger, sort of, right? Or an early catch of anger, right? Even in a professional context, you need that. That's how you lead, you know? And it's an important feeling that comes. Anger is a godly feeling. Righteous anger is important. Righteous anger gets shit done. It's the feeling that says something is not right here, you know? And I'm somebody who cares about things being right. I'm not right all the time, but I care a lot about things being right. And so I at least want to talk to you about how can we make it right, because that doesn't seem right to me. And either you can explain it to me, and maybe I'm like, well, actually, you're right. Boom, done. Or we talk about it, and I'm like, I don't really buy it. There's still something here. And you can feel that. And it's a key relationship skill, and it's key for love too. My relationship is great partly because I pledged very early in this relationship, not even to her, just to myself, to say, yo, if something bothers you, or if you have a strong feeling, I mean, even to confess my love was such a strong feeling, like, barely distinguishable from anger or something. It was just like, I need to say this. Like, it's just, and when something doesn't quite rhyme, something isn't quite right, if you can say it, that's good. Not everybody can do that. So I think in
Yeah.
Teapot, hard skill to come by. Many people want this.
Yeah. I know Rich, Decibels, and Vivid Void are doing like disagreeableness training.
Yeah.
I might try it. I think it's
Yeah.
during June or something. But cool.
I
I'm
have
also
also given
realizing
1 or 2 anger coaching sessions or something. So yeah, I can
you
do
have?
all this. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay. I
have.
didn't know that. I might
Yeah,
have to
I
try.
coach all of the things I talk about. I can also coach. It's very weird for me to like point it out like that, but I can teach faith. I can teach. It's like I know how I
Yeah.
got there. That's these stories. But sorry, you were about to say something.
I'm realizing I probably actually have like 10 minutes. I have to drive to somewhere across LA.
Okay,
So I still feel like
that's
there's so much to talk about, but there is a time limit. So
we can always do another one. This is a very valuable conversation, and for me, it's very good to have things out there. And I think I can offer you. I think I can offer you a last short piece of story, like kind of abbreviated, that
sure.
sort of concludes the sabbatical. So we have a 1 full turn, and then
Yeah.
maybe we can do some closing words that, knowing me, are not going to be super short, and then I think 10 minutes will be full quickly.
Cool.
Does that sound
That
all right
sounds
to
perfect.
you? Because what I would like to, a brief thing that I would like to brush on is that so let me see how I pull this together. So in 2022, while I was living with my brother, a magical thing appeared in Berlin, and it was called Medley. I don't know, maybe you heard about it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have.
And that brings us very nicely back to sort of something that brought me closer to the end of my sabbatical, and also to Twitter, where we come from. So I think it's a good circle, because Ananta, Chris, and Rick brought, I think all of these names are public, brought Medley to Berlin, and it was a crazy project. Remains to this day a crazy project, even though it's not alive and kicking right now necessarily. And I was part of this residency, and for this whole sabbatical development, one big thing is, of course, finding the others. And I started my sabbatical in 2018, and nobody was talking about sabbaticals, and there was no precedent. I didn't even call it a sabbatical when I went, right? That's a retrospective naming. I was just going into free time, into quiet time, into time away from work. I was just gonna not work. I just wanted to live. I just wanted to see how life is without work, right? Yeah. I found out since that work is sort of essential, but I wanted a basic living experience. And so the I think that's really worth pointing out, because sabbatical is already not that it's very good that it's becoming a thing, but it's and it's a beautiful word, because the Shabbat of doing nothing, that of violently almost doing nothing, of like, no, I'm really doing nothing. I think that's really key, and that's really good. Of rejecting all labor, for a moment, and luxuriating in that, and being challenged by that. I think that's so key. And I was always thinking about what would I do if I had this meme question, right? What would you do with all the money in the world? Would you travel? Would you XYZ? It's like, no, I would make roots and really live, for me personally, depending on
Yeah.
how aquatic or aerial you
Mhm.
are or whatever.
Mhm.
But I was going to the earth, and that is the base to my sabbatical, right? The Alchemist featuring
Mhm.
what would you do with all the money in the world? And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I would just buy time. Like, you can just
Mhm.
buy time, and time costs as much as you spend every day or every month.
Mhm.
That is something that's worth thinking about. Your life is as expensive as what you spend, and if you have that money, you can just buy that time and do nothing to make money. I mean, that's really something.
Yeah. 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 I love that.
And yeah, and so that as the real basis of what I was doing, and yeah, being myself, and then finding the others. And Twitter was like, wow, there are people here.
Yeah.
Who are these people? Who is this Brent? Who is this Nebras? Like, wow, they seem so interesting. Well, who is this mycelium maid? Uh, and so on and so forth. And Medley was like uh, a 16 people or 19 people, 3 months mini vibe thing.
Mhm.
And I was lucky enough to meet the people at the right time. A lot of it through Twitter, a little bit of interintellect sprinkled in there, and unbelievable gravitational fields appearing in Berlin. Suddenly, people emerging. It's like, whoa, you're like vibey as fuck. Like, who are you guys? And then, and not having met people like that, and
Yeah.
being like, I want to meet you guys. Just pure puppy curiosity turning on in me. It's like, who are you? I want to meet you. Can I meet you? And then being invited to like a picnic, or
Yeah.
something, and meeting some people, and going my little steps bit by bit, where I feel called to,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
ending up as a Medley resident. And suddenly, boom, being in the midst of the Brents and the Nebrases and the Anitas, and what the hell? Like, I'm just yeah. And yeah, then really finding this divine identity of, okay, shit, we're all like wizards. We all have, if we live truly, we can bring unbelievable gifts to the world, and that needs this kind of time or space, or like this affordance that like a medley gave, this room, a third space, something that people can inhabit, to express themselves, and to, if everybody believes that there's a true gift in here, this truth, this
Mhm.
true voice, this emergence that needs to travel through your body, through your spine. So there's a holistic thing here. The bodily integrity, everything Teapot talks about is bodily
Yeah.
integrity,
Yeah.
uh, voice, feelings, different voices in your head, IFS, like all these things, is to straighten you out, to give you a holistic sense, to bring truth and to bring gift and to bring divinity and magic into the world. And that became abundantly clear in Medley.
Yeah.
And that's what we all do. And that needs renewal, and that needs a sabbatical, that needs time
Mhm.
away from normal life, because you need to go into hyper normal life, where you cook your food and you tidy your flat and you go to the
Yeah.
doctor and you take care of yourself, of you, of the divine being. So that would be my bit to the end, that and Medley gave that to us, and in connection as well, and was really something, and things have never been the same.
Mm. Wow. I'm having like this moment of like um It's funny, when I first joined Twitter, I talked to my first friend, Pranav, and he was like, "Oh, your life is, like, about to change." And I was like, "What?" And, like, within 6 months, it was, like, drastically different. I'm getting, like, a similar feeling now where it's like, "Oh, wow," like, it's so good to hear from you, like, what you did and went through, and I'm like, "Wow," like, maybe things are about to change. I really like what you said about, like, going step by step and, like, feeling the calling to move towards things. Instead of, like, to touch a little bit on the control stuff, like, instead of, like, planning it out, it's like, no, like, follow the voice or the calling.
You
Yeah.
have to.
That's
You
kind
have
of
to.
how it feels like.
That
I have to.
that is the whole thing. I mean, otherwise you're like in a joke sabbatical, in a light one, in like a it's antithetical control to it. It's about letting go. It's
Yeah.
about letting life like such a funny sentence, but it's about Jesus take the wheel. You know, we spoke about God a lot, so I think I can say that.
Yeah.
It's like no, I will, and then you serve. You're like, okay, so we're going left, and you just go like, you know, it's following. It's about it's changing your. I think this is really key for us learning to think that you need to control. You
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
need to serve. You need to lead, but control is an
Mhm.
illusion,
Mhm.
as is security. You know, life is to be lived on the edge. Life is to be served. Life is to be um, step by step, but not controlled.
Mhm.
It's just not
Yeah.
not what's up. No. Well, since you have to go, I want to I want to thank you very much for having this conversation with me on um, my show, sort of. I mean, whatever,
Yeah.
really. It's for everybody.
Mhm.
But this and we can easily do a round two of this. Very honestly, I don't. We can do this next week, or we let it settle, or whatever. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, helps me a lot to think this through and to tell the story. I haven't done it so much, and
Mhm.
I want to thank you for your uh, attention and patience and great questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me. It's giving me a lot to think about. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, great. And very nice to meet you, to talk with you.
Yeah.
It's
You
I thought
too.
we'd get along quite
It's
well.
really
So
nice.
yeah, yeah, great.
Okay.
What a fun ride through the
This is
past. Okay,
fantastic.
yeah. Well, I'll stop the recording and we can have a little wind down chat for a minute before you have to go, and then.
Okay.
So
That sounds
thank
good.
if anybody's listening to this, which I hope, thank you very much, and I hope you can like my very dominant portion of the talking here. So, but yeah, that was the premise. So, thank you very much, and see you soon. Maybe for more nice chats with nice people, and maybe another one with Christine and all that. All that. Goodbye. Thank you.